Hi. Um Welcome to my epic Minecraft gameplay video. I'm not exactly sure why I'm recording this, but I just kind of wanted to have a sit down and just kind of talk, ramble for a bit while doing whatever it is I'm doing here. I mean, I'll get into that. I do, however, apologize even though nobody gives a shit about this. The fact that this video isn't 16 by 9. I usually like to keep it in 4 by 3 just out of personal preference, but it's kind of hard to do that because I'm playing on the PS4 and I could have just started a different world on my PC and, have it run in like 4 by 3 and all that crap. But I've been playing on this world quite a bit recently. A bit later in the video I might go up there and show you some of the stuff that I've done, which isn't that much, but still. So right now I am down here in a trail ruin, and these things kind of poke out of the ground up there. And I thought, I started digging down. I was about here. It was about at like this height, and I was like, okay, there's no way this is gonna like keep going down. And I just kind of kept going, and like, oh, there's some bricks here or whatever. But this is it, right? And then I kept digging that way, and there was this. The crafting table was already there, but the bed and furnace weren't. And then I dug this way, and oh, here's some stuff, but there's nothing that way, and obviously there is, and there's still quite a bit more here, which is what I'm gonna be doing in this video. Unless this really is all there is to this one, in which case that will be kind of lame and embarrassing. So the idea of making like a Minecraft series has been on my mind for a while, and I kind of started this world thinking like, oh, maybe I'll do it. Then I figured out I can't put my PS4 in 4x3, so I kind of shelved the idea for a bit, and today I just kind of felt like doing it, I'm usually more of a Java player, so why did I decide to suddenly start like a world in Bedrock? Because I want to be cozy. I want to be sitting in my couch, just lying back, all cozy while playing an admittedly cozy game. I just found myself not really giving much thought to my Java worlds, because I start one, I play in it for a couple of hours, and then, I just go do something else. I stop playing in that world for that day, and then I go play No Man's Sky or whatever, and I never touch the world again. This way, I can't exactly easily multitask on a PS4. I mean, I can listen to music at the same time, but it's just different, and I find it a lot easier to just sit down and relax when I'm actually sitting down on a couch than an office chair. So yeah, and I also kind of have a lot of opinions about Minecraft, and what better way to voice them than in a Minecraft video. There's this genre of video on YouTube that's really popular right now, which I like to call Minecraft beta slop, because that's kind of what it is. It's these guys that just start a new world, or maybe they've been playing in beta for a while. It's just these videos about how much better Minecraft used to be, but then beta 1.8, the adventure update, ruined it, or then release 1.0 ruined it, or the combat update ruined the game. Everybody likes a different version, and everybody's making the exact same arguments for why their version is the best. And I think that's stupid. I find it very annoying, because those videos are usually pretty bad. There's this one that I specifically... Oh, crap. So there's a hole below, and it's like breaking the gravel, like the sus gravel. Oh my goodness. Remember that, guys? From 100 years ago? I remember this specific one that was called like You know, no shade to the fucking creator or whatever. I really don't care. I don't think I've ever seen another video from them. It was called, like, Make Minecraft Builds Ugly Again. And it was just such a shitty-ass fucking piece of shit of a video. Like, to the point, you know, the guy was playing on, like, release 1.0. So, you know, technically not a beta Andy, as I like to call them. Even though that sounds like I'm calling... I just realized that kind of sounds like I'm calling them, like, a soy boy or whatever. Which is kind of funny, but I don't mean it in that way, obviously. But yeah, these, like, Golden Age Minecraft Andys. A bunch of people were actually like, oh, dude, this video fucking sucks ass. Because what he was doing is basically like, oh, I remember I was playing this one time in my Minecraft server with my friends and they made fun of my build. But, of course, there's no one right way to build. And sometimes builds that people find ugly can have value, which is an entirely fair point, which I do agree with. And then he goes on to say that, you know, there's no right way to build in Minecraft, so you shouldn't basically pretend that there is. Which, again, completely fair point that I agree with. And then he starts going on about how he started a world in Release 1.0 and how his manner of building is more pure, more conducive to a purer, more correct kind of fun to have. Which, like, I don't know, the guy spends the first half of the video arguing that there's no right way to build, and the second half arguing that his way to build is the right way. So, you know, any potential value that, you know, admittedly, like, oh, there's no right way to build in Minecraft isn't a particularly, like, insightful thing to say. Like, yeah, that's true. There's not much substance to it, but at least it's, like, a real, like, reasonable thing to say. But, you know, I just thought it was, like, kind of hilarious in a really annoying way how he just kind of did that. Like, oh, but my way to build is more correct than all of these modern building techniques, because my way is more, like, pure. That was kind of what the argument felt like, which it's just like, is there such a thing as a better way to have fun? You know, is that even a thing that can exist? Is there a correct way to engage with something, even if, you know, especially something like a game, you know? Out of shovels. Fuck. But yeah, that whole video was just like, oh, there's no correct way to build in Minecraft except my way, which is better and more pure. Which is just like, you know, again, just turned a kind of lame video into a very bad one that just, you know, it's just nonsense. Like, that doesn't fucking make any sense whatsoever. Okay, so here it goes down. These things, like, I feel like I've already said this, but, like, these things are fucking huge. I think it keeps going that way. Yeah, it seems to. And now I'm not entirely sure if it doesn't keep going, like, this way too. Because, yeah, like, I dug down and I expected, like, oh, it's just, like, a tiny little thing. It's just gonna, like, end here in this, like, courtyard. Well, I guess it was, like, a tower. But no, it just keeps going. I really underestimated the amount of stuff in these ruins, which, I mean, I had never explored one of these before, so I guess I just never really paid much attention to them, honestly. But yeah, like, there's so much. If you want to, like, be popular, or at least have, you know, your 5 minutes of fame in Minecraft YouTube nowadays, I feel like you can just make, oh, things used to be so much better back in the day. Like, oh, the version I started playing in is the best one, actually. And you will have, like, you know, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people being like, oh my god, dude, that's so true. And it's like, I guess it's just bad videos, you know, at the end of the day, but, you know, there's just something that bothers me so much about it. Because, you know, it's just kind of dismissing, you know, all of these fucking, again, all of these beta Andys are just dismissing the last 12? No, it might be like fucking closer to 15 years of, some really fucking cool content that's been added to the game. There's this other, popular thing, and this is kind of an inside joke that I have with, well, I guess mostly myself. Whenever there's a brand new, oh, check out this awesome mod. It's for beta 1.7.3. It's always beta 1.7.3. That's the heckin' based Minecraft version if you're 40 years old, presumably. Oh, check out this cool new mod for beta 1.7.3. And, obviously the Minecraft Golden Age community isn't a monolith, so some people maybe think, oh, some of these new updates are actually good. Obviously it's not a monolith. Not everybody in these communities has the same kinds of opinions, but I just think it's funny that there's a bunch of people being like, oh, all of these new wood types, it was better when it was just one kind of wood, and then they go play a mod that adds a bunch of new wood types and then it's good. I am mostly talking about Better Than Adventure, because that's the old slop mod. And I don't know, I just feel like this kind of, no, I broke it, fuck. I just feel like this kind of content is at best really just lame. And this is what I'm about to say is probably quite controversial and definitely a little bit inflammatory, probably, but some of it low-key has some fascistic undertones to it. It's very much the same, this is what they took from you rhetoric that who else other than Mr. Notch himself really likes. And it's, we must return to a better, simpler time. And, obviously I'm not arguing that any of this, especially that part, is necessarily on purpose. I don't think the people making these videos are literally fascists, but they certainly, as most people are, unfortunately, they certainly are susceptible to fascist-esque propaganda. The whole vibe around these, some of these videos, only some, not even most of them, I don't think. I think some of the vibe around these videos is very look what they took from you type stuff. Sometimes I just hear the things these people say, and it's and I wince. Because it's oh, I think I saw some guy with a fucking, I feel like I saw some guy with a, marble bust of, Aristotle or whatever, say this on Twitter a couple days ago, or something similar, but, about, the Jews or whatever, which, in that case, it is blatantly, obviously propaganda, and in that case, it is on purpose, but, I just wish people had more care with the kind of shit that they say, and how they say it. I wish people thought more about the things they like and why they like them. And, beta isn't better than... Beta 1.7 isn't better than the Adventure update. It's the name of that one mod. Nor is it necessarily worse. It's different. But, oh my god, there's more fucking clay stuff here. These things are fucking huge. I want to turn this, I'm thinking of turning this into excavating it all the way to the surface and then making a building up there and making a museum sort of deal. I have in my city this museum that's you go in and it's just one big room and it's got a glass floor and it's got Roman ruins underneath. And I've always thought that place was really fucking cool. And I feel like that would be an interesting thing to recreate with these ruins. Just, I'll clean them up a little bit more and just make, I think I'll destroy that chimney tower thing though, because that would kind of interfere. Because if I had to build the big glass floor on top of that, then it would be, the rest of it would be really low down, and it can still be we can just pretend that this was never actually here, and that the archaeology so the archaeology stuff just starts at the height of this ceiling, well, depending on how tall that stuff is. Well, at the height of that at least. And it's gonna be like you walk in and it's just gonna be a glass floor similar to that museum that I was saying. But as I was saying, like some of this like Minecraft content is just like very, it is spiritually well, not spiritually, it is pretty much literally slop, because there you are pretty much guaranteed to have a community of people who will just eat it up like uncritically, the kind of people who are around my age and remember when the combat update came out. I remember at the time I was like, oh, this update is fucking dog shit. Like, this is the worst update to Minecraft ever. It was also the first major update that I actually experienced, as the snapshots and stuff were coming out. I don't really understand why I hated it so much, because the big bad changes, quote unquote, are to the PvP, which I was never really into. So it didn't really matter to me either way. And, with time I've found that the new combat system, new as in, introduced 10 fucking years ago, is quite a lot better, especially for the, like, core single player experience of the game. A fucking fern or a dead bush. Call me George the way call me, yeah, whatever. I found that like the new as in introduced 10 years ago combat update is actually quite good for the core like single player experience of the game. It makes fighting mobs like fun and interesting instead of just drag click your way out of a bad situation. And I think it actually improves regular PvP too, because it adds, a component of actual like interesting, like an actually interesting mechanic to it. Because like old combat was just like, oh, if you can click faster, you're generally at a huge advantage. You're like 80% likely to win against your opponent. Like, that's not an interesting single player combat experience, and an even less interesting multiplayer combat experience. I feel like the fucking, I don't know, Dark Souls or whatever, like FromSoft games, the interesting thing about the combat in those, obviously much more combat-centric games, but I'm mainly comparing it to like the PvP, like Minecraft PvP. I feel like the more interesting thing about those games is that like the combat is like there's like a technique to it that you can't just spam your way out of like a boss or whatever, which again, fundamentally more fun. I think that's, if you actually stop and think about it, I think a lot of people would find that the combat update was actually pretty damn good. There's obviously flaws with exactly how it was implemented, but I do think it's still better than... Why can't I navigate to the other 21 items? Because that's where I have my copper. Well, actually... Oh, I guess that works. I just think like the new combat is like a very huge upgrade, and I suppose you can disagree, which is completely fine. I definitely understand if you put a lot of time into like learning how to click really fast, how that can feel like wasted if you like with the new I keep calling it new. That shit came out fucking 10 years ago. Like I was 10 when 1.9 was coming out. But yeah, like I feel like the combat update was like overall a positive, but I suppose it's fine if you disagree, because I guess there really isn't a right way to play the game. It is completely fine if you still prefer the old one, but I just don't really get it, which is also fine. It's fine if you don't really understand exactly why people enjoy things, but I feel like I do understand pretty well why people just have this fucking boner for just get a huge boner every time beta Minecraft is mentioned. It's the better, like more pure version of the game, how it was originally intended to be before it was tainted by a decision made by the only guy who was developing it. This is mainly talking about the adventure update, beta 1.8. If you're a release 1.8 like truther, I guess the moment... Oh my god, I keep fucking breaking the suspicious gravel. I guess the update that ruined the game was the combat update. I rarely see people mention... I feel like 1.8 is the like last version people really talk about, when it comes to like, oh, old Minecraft was better. I don't really think and at least I haven't really seen that many people argue that, you know, Minecraft was just so much more pure before the Nether update or whatever. I don't know, maybe there are Buzzy Beast truthers out there. If that's you, leave a comment. You know, I'd be, you know, very surprised to hear about a Buzzy Beast truther actually existing, even though it was like a fine update. Not to say that it was bad, but like, you know what I mean. But yeah, like this sort of content is just like really, I feel like at best it's just like lazy, and it's the lamest fucking shit ever. It just reeks of like, oh, I haven't, you know, I refuse to. On one hand, it's like, I don't want to just sit here and be like, oh, get with the times, because I'm very much someone who doesn't want to get with the times, because the times kind of do suck. Not in terms of, not for Minecraft specifically, but in general. You know, I like using old tech. I do think a lot of like old tech and stuff was better, you know, properly built for the most part. Sometimes, you know, I'm currently playing this game on a console from like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, on a television from 2009, speakers from the 1960s. I'm very much a, like, no, don't want to break that one. You know, I'm very much a, like, I heart old shit kind of person. And on one hand, I kind of understand how, you know, but I feel like in this case, it really isn't, like, I'm not necessarily blinded by nostalgia. Very easy for me to say, and I'm talking about myself. I feel like I'm not really that blinded by nostalgia because, you know, sometimes things did suck. Sometimes there are things now that are like unequivocally better. You know, but on the other hand, computers haven't gotten like noticeably, you know, they have gotten noticeably better, but not in a way that matters to most people in the last like 10 years. And yes, gamers aren't most people. And I think, you know, some of the trends, for example, in like the technology used for more current games, you know, like ray tracing, like real-time upscaling and all that stuff, I think, motherfucker, I keep breaking that stuff. You know, I think some of those aren't necessarily the best, because they're, you know, kind of inefficient, very performance intensive, you know, but at what point am I not just like committing the same like fallacies that I'm saying, you know, all of these like OG Minecraft Andes are. And I should probably stop calling them Andes, because that's I kind of use that in a, you know, depending on the context, I kind of use that in a derogatory way. So, you know, no shade if you do prefer old Minecraft, but I feel like it's just kind of important to be aware of your own biases and why, and to think about like why do you believe the things you believe, you know? I feel like that's kind of an important concept that a lot of people don't really think about. A lot of people don't really think about how they think. God, this thing is fucking huge. I'm gonna have to make a huge building on top of this. I think right now I'm gonna go back to my house and just like leave most of this stuff there. And I gotta bring some chests because this really is a lot more than I was really expecting. But yeah, I feel like my main issue with most of these videos is that, you know, the people making them are very clearly blindsided by nostalgia of like, you know, again, like the best version of Minecraft is the one that I started playing on, which, am I really gonna sit here? I'm certainly nostalgic for, you know, Minecraft Pocket Edition, like the original version from like 2014, or like 2013 even. I think that's around when I started playing it. But, you know, am I really gonna sit here and argue that it's like, oh, it's just so much better, it's a more pure version of the game, so much better than all of these modern updates, you know? Pocket Edition kind of sucked ass, and that's kind of fine. I can still, well, actually I can't, at least not very easily, but, you know, if I can find like an APK of the old Pocket Edition builds that I used to play in, I'm probably gonna be like on my phone, and I'm gonna be like very nostalgic about it. Am I necessarily gonna have a better experience than on the version I'm playing right now? I doubt it. Won't be able to go to the nether, which I haven't gone to the nether in this world yet. So yeah, this is my house. I got this from like, I didn't design this one. And this is my like furnace smelting building, where I have these like mini like auto smelters, where the idea with these, you know, you're probably, if you're into Minecraft, you're familiar with these. You put the items you want to smelt here, you put your fuel back here, and you get the items are spit back out down here. And then on the ground I have like this pattern. It's currently full of holes because I'm waiting for the copper slabs to fully oxidize, because I want them to be like nice and blue like this. And I think the pattern's gonna look pretty good. These mostly look like random holes, but I don't think it works. This pattern works particularly well at this scale. This is the root weave pattern that's in the X, like it's a default X background. That's the Unix, I think, windowing system. And the default background is this like pattern with these like, you know, it looks like it's woven. If you just look it up, just look up like X root weave, and it's like a pretty cool pattern, but I'm not entirely sure that it's going to work in a building that small. I'm certainly going to try to use it on a like bigger build with like a large floor, maybe later in this very world. Who knows? Stay tuned. Fuck, I left one of my bundles at home. Whatever. I have a chest now. Me after starting HRT. Another thing I kind of wanted to just like mention is that one like big, like I've seen people talking about it on Twitter and stuff. One thing I like doing, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, is watching just like content about Minecraft ARGs, which is just like, you know, it's just a bit of fun. Most of them are bad. Most of them are very bad. It's like some of the most like overdone generic horror tropes, and there's, you know, a lot of overdone like Minecraft tropes too, because a lot of these tend to take place in like my heckin' beta and my heckin' old versions with old fog and all of that crap. So, you know, the couple weeks ago, maybe even a month at this point, there was this one really big video that came out. I believe it was called something along the lines of like searching for a world that doesn't exist, and I don't remember the name of the YouTuber who made it, but you know, it was formatted in the style of like a video about a Minecraft ARG, but you know, the catch was it wasn't a real ARG, like which is fairly obvious from the video, like from just watching the video. I mean, did this guy really stumble upon a channel with like 3 views and perfectly decode this very obtuse like stuff? You know, there's the bit where he figures out like, oh, it turns out that this is the exact length of a Google Drive link, and it's like, okay, dude, there's no way you would notice that. But that's not what I want to say about that video, because like, you know, it doesn't really matter if it's a fake ARG or not. I feel like it's still a legitimate use of the format. You know, I remember like I watched the video and I was like pleasantly surprised by it. I was like, holy shit, this Minecraft ARG doesn't fucking suck ass like most of them do. This is actually like pretty decent. And you know, most of the comments were just like, oh, this is a retelling of like The King in Yellow by Robert Chambers, which is one of the most like critically acclaimed horror books. Does that count as like a horror book? Is there even such a thing? And you know, just like the book that inspired H.P. Lovecraft. I think that's what it says. I have a copy of it. I'm yet to actually read it. I didn't buy it because of the Minecraft ARG. I bought it because of Signalis, which is, if you haven't heard of, it's the best game ever and you should play it. Yeah, like I think it literally says inside like, oh, you know, the book that inspired H.P. Lovecraft. You know, from what I hear, it's a very good book. The whole thing, that whole like Minecraft ARG is just inspired by it, and like a very, from what I understand, like a very like close retelling of it. I think most of this gravel is just like, this is just like a gravel patch. This isn't actually, yeah, I don't see any actual suspicious gravel there, but there's certainly stuff underneath here, so I should be careful. But yeah, and it's like, you know, the video's like actually good. there were a bunch of, I saw like somebody on Twitter being like, oh, this is the best retelling of The King in Yellow ever made, and it's like, okay, dude, calm down. Like, chill for a second. There's more Clay stuff. Chill for a second. This is pretty good, impressive, especially for the genre that it's in, but it's not like that like crazy. It's a pretty damn good video, and it like doesn't really play into like most of the tropes of the Minecraft ARG genre, like Minecraft horror ARG genre, which is like the very tired trope of like so much like, oh, there's a video and then there's Google, the link to the Google Drive, and then if you rearrange these things in this certain order, then you get this. There's a little bit of that, but not that much. It also doesn't take place in beta. It takes place in like Minecraft 1.18, and a really cool detail that I thought was like really cute and actually kind of interesting is the fact that like he's playing on like, I think it was 1.18, but there's blocks from like 1.20. Like you can see like more modern blocks, which is at least a very small indication that like there is something wrong with this Minecraft world, and maybe the player shouldn't be there. It's like it is genuinely good, and mostly because of what I feel like it doesn't do. And there's not a lot of decoding stuff. There's this one section where the player comes across this cave with this like with a bunch of like ciphered text written on the walls. It is literally a quote. I think like people have like the player in the video deciphers it, but the creator of the video doesn't. Again, these are the same people, because the guy just created the ARG and then made the video about it, and it wasn't an actual ARG. The video part of it was the actual final product. Yeah, and he doesn't decipher it, but I think people have deciphered it, and it's like a direct quote from the book. One of the more iconic ones that I think actually shows up in Signalis as well, which is kind of fun. But yeah, like the storytelling is like genuinely like good, especially again for the standards of Minecraft ARG slop, which are pretty damn low. You're not likely to... It's usually just like, oh, there's a big monster and it chases you. I especially like the fact that, when the player encounters the king, you can't actually see it. Like, it's just censored. And, not to be like a little baby or whatever, but that part genuinely scared me a little bit, I'm not afraid to admit it. I am scared of the jump scares in FNAF. So, it is like genuinely... And it's like a relatively unassuming video, It just looks like it's going to be another generic ARG, and then it blows your mind by actually being decent and not fucking sucking ass. Again, it's just good. The builds, that is genuinely the most impressive part, because, again... The trope with a lot of these ARGs is to have very like tight, very tiny, very beta pilled, like very quaint builds. It kind of starts out like that, where the first player is just in a like very small mine shaft, the kind you would see in like pre 1.8. Pre Caves and Cliffs. It's like a very tiny mine shaft that they themselves built for like strip mining. And then, when it transitions to the other player's point of view, like he goes into this like naturally generated cave with some things wrong with it. Then he encounters just this massive like sprawling forest inside of a huge cave. And, I feel like it's really fucking cool because it still manages to capture that, like, oh, there's something, like, wrong and eerie about this world, you're not supposed to have a forest inside of a huge cave. Those don't naturally occur, and the vibes are usually, not to use a comically overused word, but, the vibes are a little bit uncanny because, again... trees aren't supposed to grow, underground. So it's just this massive forest. And, the builds are just fucking huge. He then encounters an abandoned village where, in case the King in Yellow metaphor wasn't, obvious before, it's very, you know, the village is like very yellow, and the creator points it out, and then there's a house in the village that mentions the king, that obviously being the king in yellow, like the name of the book. And you know, it's just like a genuinely good video, and I was like very pleasantly surprised by it. Like, if you haven't watched it, oh my god, I keep breaking this shit. If you haven't watched it, you probably should. It's not that long. I mean, it's a little bit long, but for the current meta of YouTube videos being 15 hours long, it's like 45 minutes, I believe. And it's like really fucking good, actually. You know, it's not that good. It's nothing particularly crazy, but if you like that genre of video, even if it's as a guilty pleasure like myself, you will likely enjoy that video. Oh my god, guys, it's a creeper. Oh, and my fucking shovel just broke. And I've been recording for like an hour, so I think I might end this here. I really talked a lot, and I don't know how long this is going to be when edited down, but it's still going to be kind of a long ramble. I do want to mention, like, I know I haven't uploaded videos in like 7 months or 8. My last video is about the Minecraft movie right when it came out. You know, it's been a while. I have been streaming every so often, and I do plan to continue streaming, but I also haven't streamed in like a month. So, you know, I'm very inconsistent with my content uploads and stuff. You know, I just haven't really had like many ideas for videos that are like, that I feel fit the channel. Because, you know, I have like a couple ideas for like video essays, but I feel like this is much more of a just press record and ramble kind of channel than necessarily, you know, like, oh, you know, here's the entire history of, you know, Minecraft. Anyways, I do plan on making videos slightly more often. Maybe I'll make more of these Minecraft videos if I don't stop playing in this world like tomorrow. Which there's a good chance that that'll happen, because I tend to leave Minecraft worlds pretty early. But yeah, you know, if you watched all the way to this point of the video, thank you. And obviously don't forget to smash that like button, you know, hit subscribe, and hit the bell for more crazy, like, epic content like this, where you can hear me ramble about shit that I don't like. And maybe sometimes I might even talk about things that I like. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.